I like it.
We got our investment out of that.
I think that annexation study is going to come out with fairly significant revenue. How much money is it going to cost to do utilities out?
That's how our insurance policies with that, and I can type in a phrase like that I'm looking for ambulance. I type it in. That's our policy. Got it. It's awesome. So this does that too. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we still like it.
I got a talking to from my wife because she read in the paper that I said to bring it on, and all I meant was like bring on the housing, next year.
I knew what you meant.
I didn't, and she thought I meant like was being disrespectful to you. So I got a talking to.
It's so much simpler.
Exactly.
I think it is.
Megan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
This is a press release we're going to give to the media about our presentation
Okay.
tonight. We just wanted you to have it in your vein.
Okay, thank you.
You'll hear it all. Well, you
Okay.
heard it all.
We know, young man.
Jim, how are you?
We could be waiting a long
We're
time.
presenting tonight at the
We got hired.
Presentation Center. So this is the media release we're going to give to the media.
Well, we endorse our zoning ordinance.
Thank you very much. I've been trying to get a hold of you. I've not been able to sit down and meet with you and talk to you about the project.
We really do.
So we'll connect. You'll hear it tonight and then we'll connect.
Thank you.
Is that new? Or has that always been there, the American one?
And there's one that
Awesome. Did we really?
well, some of them.
The new pictures? Still vertical. Still vertical.
That's cool.
Yeah. Was Emily happy with the way the election turned out? Good deal. Good. I am too. The only one that I wish would have changed was Herbster. But You're not totally vertical. You're kind of more like me. We're going horizontal.
It's like a book.
what? Oh,
Testing,
yes.
testing.
Did she finally beat me? That's what I thought. Okay, I never did see the final tally. We got to get her across the finish line.
From where she started and how much money he spent, she's right in.
Yeah, yeah,
And the way it works, so they'll go on.
right. Now, what about Stevens? That'll still be on the agenda, right? Stevens and Tech Mile? That's what I thought. Oh, I know. Well, I hope not. Of course, I'm sure the NSEA is going to throw a lot of money.
I know.
Maybe not. Oh, yes. Oh, very well.
I don't see how he can overcome that deficit. Oh my goodness.
That's a big deficit.
That's a real problem.
Thank you guys for listening to me. What?
Actually, I'm just.
How are you?
Hi.
I was just going to give give you the press release. We're presenting tonight on the rec center.
Yeah.
And so I'm giving the press release to the media. Just wanted you guys to have a copy of it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Mark.
I had got a call from that Bob stuff just as I was leaving.
Was that right?
And she's gonna be here this weekend. And she said we could, if we could, she'd like to, she's at the Marriott, said they got free coffee, so we could. She said Saturday or Sunday, and I know Sunday's bad for you, but I
So
wonder,
now she said what?
she wants to meet Saturday or Sunday, but Sunday's
Okay,
bad for
I
you.
can meet in the afternoon for sure.
Okay, Saturday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon.
Oh, okay. If that'll work for
I
you.
think I'll be around
What time? Cause I'm,
anytime after 1.
okay, I'll tell her like 1:30.
That'll be fine.
All right, I'll get back.
Where's she wanting to go?
Well, she's staying at the Marriott, so she said we could just stop there and they got free coffee and
Oh,
we
okay.
can just sit and talk.
Sure.
Okay.
What's all the people here
Huh?
for? What's all the people here for?
I guess for the rec center maybe?
I don't know.
Oh, no, I don't know what the police are. Did you do something?
Maybe it's
wrong?
because I was
Evening,
here.
everyone. Let's get started. This is the North Platte City Council meeting, May 17th, 2022 at 5:30 PM. Unfortunately, our microphones are randomly working tonight, so I will attempt to project my voice so that you can all hear me. Everyone else would turn their mics on. Maybe the YouTube stream will pick up a little bit of my voice. And please, council, if you're talking tonight, project your voice, because I'm not sure everyone will be able to hear us real well, especially those folks that are joining us from home. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order, and we have an invocation by Pastor Clint Walker from the First Baptist Church, please.
Please join me in prayer. Almighty God, we thank you that we live in such a wonderful town. We thank you that you have blessed us with good neighbors and good friends. And we thank you for these leaders who have been elected to do the business of our city. We pray as we gather together, as we make decisions, as we listen to one another, Lord, that you would give each person compassion and wisdom and strength to do what is right. Thank you, Lord, for blessing us with so much, and help us to be faithful, to be good stewards of those blessings. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pastor Walker.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Angie.
Isley?
Here.
Tryon? Here. Cole?
Here.
Lucas?
Here.
Garrett?
Here.
Carmen?
Here.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Open Meetings Act. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act in Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Meeting procedure. The public may address specific agenda items at the pleasure of the mayor. If recognized by the mayor, please identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please address the council through the mayor and limit your remarks. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. Awards and accolades. Tonight we have the pleasure of doing a proclamation as well as swearing in some new police officers. So we're going to do the proclamation first, which really just entails me standing up and reading it, so that's not too bad. Okay, so let's do this. Proclamation. Office of the Mayor of North Platte, Nebraska, proclamation. Whereas on October 1, 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a congressional bill proclaiming May 15th as National Memorial Day for all law enforcement officers who were slain in the line of duty. And whereas the police officers of America have worked devoutedly and selflessly in behalf of the people of this nation, regardless of the peril or hazard to themselves. And whereas these officers have safeguarded the lives and the property of their fellow Americans, and whereas by the enforcement of our laws, These same officers have given our country internal freedom from fear of the violence and civil disorder that is presently affecting other nations. And whereas the courage and dedication shown by members of law enforcement agencies, as well as the many sacrifices they made in the line of duty, is deeply appreciated by the citizens of North Platte. And whereas the protection of life and property within the city of North Platte is entrusted to the constant efforts of these men and women who serve in law enforcement. Now therefore, I, Brandon A. Kelleher, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of North Platte, Nebraska, do hereby proclaim May 11th through May 17th, 2022 as Law Enforcement Memorial Week in North Platte, Nebraska. Thank you. Okay, now for the best part, we're going to swear in some officers.
Yeah.
And first we have Carissa Barnes, who comes to us with 2 years of service from the Keith County Sheriff's Office and is a probationary police officer. Carissa, if you would come up to the front here, please. And as well, we have Megan Brady, who has 16 months of service with the Scottsbluff Police Department, also a probationary police officer. And we also have Robert Folks, recently graduated from the Nebraska Law Enforcement Training Center, and he's also a probationary police officer. Okay, everybody ready? I never know where to stand. Stand off to this side. I'll try not to get too far ahead, but everybody has their card, right? Okay. I state your name.
Brady.
Robert Folks. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation.
That I bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation.
Or for the purpose of evasion. And that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties as police officer of the city of North Platte according to law.
Or for the purpose of evasion, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties as the chief of police for the city of North Platte.
There was a little typo in that document. We're not respecting the chief of police. Okay, picking up with according to law and to do the best of my ability.
According to law and to the best of my ability.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate nor am I a member of any political party.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate nor am I a member of any political party
Or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state.
or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States.
Or of this state. Or of this state. Okay. By force or violence.
By force or violence.
And that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence, so help me God.
And that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of the state by force or violence, so help me God.
Okay. Thank you very much. They should be proud that they make it through following my reading of that document. Nevertheless, we're very proud to have those new police officers, folks that we've been needing for quite some time in North Platte, so I'm glad they're here. Okay. We have a consent agenda. All matters under consent agenda are considered to be the city council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove item from consent by request. Item number 1, approve minutes of the May 3, 2022. Item number 2, approve the application by Platte Bar Inc. for a special designated license on June 17, 2022 from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. and June 18, 2022 from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. at the Platte Bar, 119 West 6th Street for a beer garden. Approve the application by Lazy RW Enterprises LLC for a special designated license on June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2022 from 12 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the DNN Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for a tasting event at the Order of Police Conference. Number 4, approve the application by Pal's Brewing Company for a special designated license on June 2nd and 3rd, 2022 from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the DNN Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for a tasting event at the Order of Police Conference. Number 5, approve the application by the Espresso Shop by Caravan LLC for a change of location to their Class 1 liquor license from 419 North Dewey Street to their new premise at 408 North Chestnut Street. Number 6, authorize the police department to apply for the NDOT-HSO grant-funded overtime reimbursement to participate in the Click It or Ticket high visibility enforcement event. Number 7, authorize and approve the interlocal agreement between the City of North Platte and Lincoln County for an overlay of portions of State Farm Road and Walker Road, and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement for the city. Number 8, authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents regarding a 3-month pilot program with Rubicon Global for the sanitation department.
Mr. Mayor, I would request that we remove 8 from the consent agenda.
Okay. Number 8 is removed from the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the rest of the agenda, the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Garrick, to approve items 1 through 7 on the consent agenda. Calling the question on that motion. Items 1 through 7 are approved. We'll now consider item 8. Mr. Reeker, you removed it. You have the floor.
Thank you. I have a question for Lane. This makes a lot of sense to me, Lane. From what I understand, it's going to help you develop routing and reduce hopefully some costs and make better usage of our manpower. How does this work for a long-term enterprise? It would seem like that once we develop a route and get this established, that we shouldn't need to renew this program.
Councilman Reeker, there's some other things that go along with it besides the routing. It also helps us on a day-to-day basis. When, let's say we go to a resident's house and their garbage cans are not out, this allows us to take a picture that immediately goes right back to the office staff, and so then if they get a call from that customer, they can explain that we were there at 10:30 this morning and your cans were not out, and we have pictures of that. Right now, we go back very often to many different people's houses if they say they were missed, and we have no other recourse. It's our word against theirs, and so we go back. In other cities where this has been used, that's reduced call-ins like that about 57%, which then saves manpower and time. It also is just a good long-term as far as customer satisfaction, as far as making sure we're serving our customers, and things like that to prove this. As the city grows, it also allows us to add routes at a very easy basis. There's some other things it does. If for some reason you have maybe a truck breakdown in the middle of their route, you can very easily then assign the rest of that route to the other 2 trucks that are out there instead of trying to scramble trucks to get that done. Alleviates a lot of misses that we may have now when there's people trying to help each other with the routes because they think they got this street or they got that street and they got missed in the process. So there's some other things as far as customer service, especially, that this will help in the long run. But this 3-month pilot project, once we evaluate it, we don't have to continue with this program, and that's a year-to-year basis from then on out.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions regarding number 8?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move that we approve number 8 on the consent agenda.
Motion Reeker, second Nisley. Discussion? Okay, go ahead and approve, please, or excuse me, vote, sorry. Hopefully you'll approve it, but just vote. Okay. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to the regular agenda. Second reading and action on ordinance number 4092, amending the City of North Platte Code of Ordinances, Chapter 156, zoning sections 156.001 through 156.145 relating to residential zoning regulations. Sections 156.290 through 156.310 relating to supplemental zoning regulations. Sections 156.370 through 156.375 relating to non-conforming uses and structures and amendments to the City of North Platte official zoning map. Mr. Griffith, would you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance number 4092, an ordinance of the City of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, amending Chapter 156, zoning sections 156.001 through 156.145, relating to residential zoning regulations, Section 156.290 through 156.310, relating to supplemental zoning regulations, Section 156.370 through 156.375, relating to non-conforming uses and structures and amendments to the City of North Platte official zoning map, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof in pamphlet form.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4092 regarding amending the City of North Platte Code of Ordinance, Chapter 156, zoning sections 156.001 through 156.145, relating to residential zoning regulations, sections 156.290 through 156.310, relating to supplemental zoning regulations, section 156.370 through section 156.375, relating to non-conforming uses and structures and amendments to the City of North Platte official zoning map on second reading.
Second.
Motion Bowles, second Lucas. Do we have any discussion on item number 9?
If I may, Mayor, I would just like to comment, I downloaded, this is on the internet, Angie sent it out in Word format. I downloaded that onto my computer and then used the Word search program. And boy, this is really great, because you can type in setback and get every ordinance that applies to setback. So, you know, if you're doing some sort of work, you wanna know, you know, what's my setback, you'll be able to find that very quickly. I think the format on this will make things more efficient, and then avoid, I think the big problem I think people have is, you know, ambiguity. They're not know whether they can do it or not, and I think that's gonna solve a lot of these problems. That's my opinion, guys. If you haven't done that, I encourage everyone to download that and do that search function, because when you use it, you'll see it's really neat. It really is.
Thank you. Other comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 9. Please vote. Item number 9 passes. Moving on to item number 10. Adopt the resolution providing for the designation of Nebraska Land Bank as a warrant lender, authorizing the execution and delivery of a warrant purchase agreement with such designated warrant lender, and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing.
Mr. Mayor, may I recuse myself from the meeting for items 10 and 11, please?
Let the record show Mr. Lucas has recused himself from items number 10 and 11.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the resolution providing for the designation of Nebraska Land Bank as a warrant lender, authorizing the execution and delivery of a warrant purchase agreement with such designated warrant lender, and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Carmen. Any discussion on item number 10? Brian, you have the floor.
I just have a question, thank you. Is this similar to agreements with the other financial institutions? I mean, there's nothing.
Nothing unusual about it. Okay, it's a fairly standard form that's used. I'm looking at Dawn and she's agreeing with me. So
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Other discussion? Calling the question on item number 10. Please vote. Item number 10 has passed. Item number 11, adopt the resolution approving claims and authorizing the issuance of 4 warrants to First National Bank of Omaha totaling $860,616.21, and 1 warrant to Western Engineering Company in the amount of $1,197,086.81 to pay approved claims and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing passed and approved on May 21, 2013.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance of 5 warrants as presented in the materials.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Vols. Any discussion on item number 11? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 11. Item number 11 is passed. Now we are down to informational presentation on the rec center. And we'll invite, are you starting, Megan? Okay. Angie, would you switch the screens, please? We'll have a PowerPoint presentation. Boy, say that 5 times real fast. Running on the screen during Megan's process.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councilman. My name is Megan McGowan, and I'm tonight representing the North Platte Area Wellness Recreation Alliance. Thanks for inviting us here, allowing us on your agenda. Now, I've talked with many of you, so I do want to talk a little bit. Our slideshow is titled "The Journey," and it has been a journey. I will be brief on the details to bring you up to speed, and then we'll get to the recommendation, which is really why we're here tonight. But the basic evolution and timeline, first of all, you all know this is not a new discussion. This is something we've been talking about, recreation center improvements, for more than 20 years. Many people in this room have been a part of the task forces much longer than myself, who have been involved for about 7 years. Most recently, we had a task force created in 2016 that was started out as a mayor-appointed task force. It's a diverse group of community leaders from a lot of different sectors of the community. We feel like we have great representation from all around the community. And I think it's important to note that when we give you our recommendation tonight, it's not the vision of just our alliance. This is really about listening to our community, listening to North Platte residents. And so several years ago, as one of the methods for our recreation committee, we did a public participation survey, public meetings, focus groups, listening sessions, just a multitude of ways to gather what our community wanted in terms of recreation and amenities in North Platte. It was a statistically valid survey. We had really great participation. We employed Green Play, which is a consulting firm that specializes in recreation and wellness initiatives. And this is what we found, what Green Play found, that the top used recreation amenities in North Platte are the parks, Lake Maloney, and then the recreation center. Some reasons cited for maybe not using the recreation center, the number one reason cited was crowding and not enough space. And again, it's important to note that the staff here, the recreation center staff, has done a really great job with the building that they have. It's a 1976 building, so it's an old building. The original spaces and uses are maybe not as relevant today as they once were. The city staff has done a really good job of trying to modify those spaces and make them more relevant to what the members are wanting today. So it certainly is not a reflection of the staff. It simply is the age of the building and the needs of our population have changed. We also looked at some of the things that they might want to see in a facility, and some of those include an indoor pool, additional gym space, added larger fitness and exercise rooms, leisure pool, lap pool, walking track was pretty high on the list. So again, we're just listening to the community when we are developing a concept and a recommendation for you tonight. The summary that, basically to summarize the last 20 years, what the people are saying they want is a recreation center that's expanded and renovated, so that existing space. And then sustaining and maintaining what we have, so really planning for, can we maintain the facility that we choose to build? So I'll invite Leland up to give you the next portion.
Better show me which button I need to hit. That one, all right. Hi, Leland Poppy, 1202 Custer Court. I'm also co-chair with Megan on the Wellness Task Force. The last council update discussion was in April of 2019, and at that time, we heard back from the council that we really need to look at three things: what to build, what management structure should we have, and then also how do you come up with the capital on that. So some of the items, when we looked at what to build, we brought in some experts at that point. One of them was the Barker Rinker CCAT architecture firm. That was a study provided by the council from the city to look at the structure of the building. And what they looked at then was, is that structure sound and solid enough to utilize? The other experts we brought in, sports facilities advisors, FSA, they looked at one point we were looking at a sports complex that the community or the tourism department would be using, that they wanted to look at bringing in more courts to host larger tournaments. So we used them, and then TSP was the design firm that looked at the rec center. TSP was the firm that designed the Columbus YMCA that we toured a few years back. But the BRS commission, they basically looked at the facility, just the architecture and mechanical assistance of the existing facility. And what they found was that the building was sound. It was built in 1976. It was sound, the roofing was good. The gym was in good condition. The one issues was the overall pool, the dome on the pool, and then just multiple areas where there was water staining and warping, but that could be expected for a building that size. But just looked at space issues related to the cardio and aerobic exercise area that was of concern. The sports facilities advisor, we looked at two different options, whether you have a standalone recreation center, whether you have a standalone sports complex, and then also a combination. So we got costs on those, looked at a site outside of where the existing rec center's at, and the recommendation at that point was to look at a combination facility if we were going to look at outside the existing rec center area. The TSP design firm, again, they're the ones that designed the facility in Columbus, and looked at options to build a new facility or look at the expansion or renovation of the existing facility. When we looked at those options, really the location is ideal for the community of North Platte. So as we discussed it, we thought our best utilization of resources was to focus on the community of North Platte, not expand the sports complex scenario because of other activities that are happening in the community with the DNN and some things that may be able to fix that issue or provide opportunities there. So we've really focused on the rec center, adding enough facilities to support some tournaments, but then utilize those locally and look at a renovation of this facility at the existing site. We have a video. I think this will work. What do I hit again? Over here. So this is kind of a general overall video. A lot of the details haven't, it's not all incorporated in here yet, but the design firm put this together, and hopefully we get that to show up for you. So now what do we do? Did you update a browser when? Oh, there we go. Okay. Just had to wait, huh? That gives you an idea there on, let's see, escape. Let's see, clear pair. That gives you an idea of the overall features that we were looking at. There was a committee, as Megan said, we went through, listened to the community, and then had a group. We prioritized those areas, then also looked at cost. You know, you can't dream real big, but try to fit the right set that you need for the growing community. So that was some of the ideas. The added courts, the track we felt was important with figure 8 track. As you can see, it would go over the other track, and it would kind of give you a look at each of the different facilities, areas in the facility as you go through it. The pool has been a concern because you can't hold competition events because the pool's not deep enough. So this would provide that, and then also have a zero entrance for the kids' pool, and really try to be efficient in visiting with Bob Barr, trying to keep the facility so your bodies of water are close enough that you can manage those with the lifeguards you have, and you don't have to have different sites. So we've been through a couple different versions. Haven't been a lot of changes we've implemented the last year or so. We've been really looking at how to manage it and what the cost structure would be and how to come up with the capital for that. On the management structure, the last presentation to the City Council, it was asked that we look at the YMCA option, and that has been one thing we've looked at over time with management. The YMCA won't sponsor, won't start an existing facility in a community that's less than 35,000. So we wouldn't be eligible for that. In that case, then you're sponsored by a different YMCA. So the YMCA's in the western half of the state include Kearney, Holdridge, McCook, and Scottsbluff. We approached Holdridge. They're currently sponsoring Gothenburg and Lexington, so they really didn't have an option. McCook didn't have the management capacity. Kearney wasn't interested, but as we continued to talk, one of the late interests was from Scottsbluff. And so we have been visiting with Scottsbluff for a period of time and have had members of the Alliance meet with their board in Scottsbluff, and they would be interested in looking at that as one option. And as we look at that, the YMCA is an option there. It still comes back. The critical part is just improving our facility. You know, it has nothing to do with the staff that's there. That staff has done a great job. We've moved to North Platte in 23 years. In that time, Trudy Merritt and the spin class got me from not being able to swim up and back to swimming 2.4 miles in an Ironman and biking 114 miles. So they're to be credited to get a fat man through all that. So they do a really great job. And as you know, the motivation, the culture and the fitness culture that's in North Platte's really amazing. When you look at other communities, Scottsbluff, visiting with them, Platte River Fitness Series, Kearney, same thing. We've got some really good things going on in North Platte. We just feel like we need a new facility and improved facility to bring us forward and compete with some of the other communities. One of the things that Conrad Bostron is the manager, CEO of the YMCA in Scottsbluff, and he always makes a comment that if you've seen one YMCA, you've seen one YMCA. Because each YMCA is different for the community. So if you look at what Scottsbluff's doing in programming, pricing, membership fees, that can be totally different in North Platte. So you meet the needs of the community, and you don't look at one and try to fit it in with your community. That's, we'll let Megan talk about funding.
Funding. Thank you.
The easy stuff, right?
Yeah, the easy part. All right. So how do we fund it? I think first we need to talk about what are we funding? What are we asking you to fund? I mentioned earlier some of the amenities that we're planning on, that we've included in our concept based on what the people said. So additional gym space, a lap swimming pool that is competitive size for high school swim meets, a leisure pool with some play features, a zero entry for the young kiddos, expanded cardio and weight rooms, some 24-hour access, that's included in our, just to certain spaces within the building. Right now, additional gym space that includes pickleball courts. I thought I should mention that. I know pickleball is very popular. It also includes tennis courts, volleyball, and basketball. The total plan, the rec center portion of this plan is estimated at $45 million. In addition to this rec center project, we're also recommending, as our Recreation Alliance, adding some improvements to Cody Pool. Again, this is not news to you all, but Cody Pool is nearing 100 years old, and each year gets more difficult to repair and hold water, which is essential. So the bathhouse is also in dire need of repairs, and so we would like to propose, recommend that we include Cody Pool improvements in this overall project. Cody Pool, or the city is working with a firm right now to develop some concepts. They've given us a rough cost estimate of around $7 million. So again, we're going to roll that into this plan. And then with the expansion of the recreation center that we're proposing, it will essentially displace our existing skate park. So another element that we have to address is the skate park. And so we also recommend addressing that within this plan and allocating some of our fundraising effort towards the skate park. Right now, we've got, there's a group that's been actively working on the skate park for some years. They've got nearly $170,000 in the bank already. They're researching sites. That's not been nailed down yet, but I know they're working with the city on some viable sites for that. And the idea is to not just relocate it, but to enhance it. It's also in need of some enhancements. I just put some pictures on of the one that's in Norfolk that they recently remodeled. So we are also adding, a good estimate is $500,000 for skate park relocation and enhancements. The final part of our funding plan is to create a maintenance reserve fund. So historically, when something been needed in the recreation center, for example, I'll use that dehumidification system. When you all of a sudden have a $600,000 need and you don't have a budget to support that, it creates a budget crisis for the city. It also creates a crisis for the recreation center because there's a potential that they may have to close in order to get that funds to repair that. So we want to create a maintenance reserve fund to help support the maintenance of this facility. Just as I said earlier, if you build it, we should be able to maintain it. And so that's part of our fundraising goal as well. And to raise those funds, we have a fundraising goal of $10 million that we would gain in grant writing. We've already started writing some grants, sponsorships with some naming rights, individualized gifts. This is a regular capital campaign. And then we've also are exploring some public-private partnerships, one of which is with the public schools, where they would agree to pay some sort of a financial portion to the city for the maintenance of, say, the swimming pool, because we are trying to build a swimming pool that meets the needs of the swim team. So we've been in conversations with them at their board level with regards to an interlocal agreement. And then we're also recommending a 1/2-cent sales tax increase. And I just put a snapshot of that survey that we did several years ago to see kind of the appetite of the public on if they would support something like that. And it looks like at that time anyway, the support was there to support a special tax that would build something like this that meets their needs. So an additional 1/2-cent sales tax, what might that look like? Just looking at numbers from 2021, a 1/2 cent would have generated, would have generated $3.2 million annually. That number is trending upwards. We've seen record numbers every year for the last 3 years. Another part of sales tax is that we feel it's the fairest form of tax. We were, from the very beginning, our alliance said we do not want to leverage property taxes to pay for anything. And so we're really looking at another alternative. We feel a sales tax is fair. It allows us to tax people that are visiting our community, people that are just passing through, people that are commuting into the community and using our services, but yet not otherwise paying for them. So this is a way that we can capture some of those funds, and especially during our tourism seasons and things of that nature. The tax would sunset at the life of the bond. So when the bond is paid off, then the tax would sunset. Oh, and I just put a picture of a receipt, which you probably can't see. That's a receipt from Gretna, and their sales tax is 9.093 at the Nebraska Crossing Mall, which I didn't know that, and I have shopped there. So why not North Platte and why not now? As I mentioned, we're already paying this tax when we go to other communities. We're paying for their amenities. We're paying for their facilities like this. So why can't we do something like that here in North Platte and have visitors help us fund some of our amenities? I just threw up some examples of what they have done in other communities near us or similar to us in size. Gothenburg has a YMCA that they built recently. It was a partnership between the school and their hospital and their city. Just some photos of that. Lexington has a YMCA that they built several years ago as a partnership between their middle school and their community, and then also a private donor, a business, Orthman Manufacturing. Columbus, Leland mentioned, Columbus has a really nice wellness center that includes partnership with the YMCA and also is a partner with their hospital. Windsor, Colorado, very similar in population to us. This was a sales tax initiative project in Windsor. Grand Forks. We kind of stole that water slide idea for our concepts. We really liked that. And then a couple of outdoor pools that are fairly new in our region. The Village of Sutherland and the Village of Grant both have these nice new pools that we're seeing leakage from our community to go to these other villages to swim. So that's something we'd like to improve in our own community. So what are the next steps? The next steps, we just wanted to bring this information to you tonight to start the conversation. We will be back in June. Hopefully, we're working on getting a work session scheduled so we can really talk more about details. You can ask a lot of questions. We'll be able to speak to some of those questions. Hopefully, we'll have those in advance and we can speak to those at the work session. In July, we would like to bring the resolution forward for the ballot initiative. The sales tax initiative is a vote by the public. However, it does require the council to allow it on the ballot. So we're not asking you to approve the tax. We're just asking you to allow the people to decide. So allowing it on the ballot in November. So that, in a nutshell, is our presentation. Any questions for myself or Leland?
Just so everybody just so everyone knows, we will have a work session on this sometime in June, once there's a few more decisions made or recommendations set forward. We'll probably talk in greater detail at that point. That being said, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Megan, I was noticing on your numbers there, you had one for Columbus, I think, and their population and ours is reasonably close. As I remember the numbers, they spent somewhere around $22 million.
Correct. That was in 2015.
2015, obviously, costs have gone up.
Right.
But you're proposing that we have the same population, we're going to spend over double what they spent in Columbus?
Those are the costs that we have
No, I understand.
today. Yeah, that's,
And then the other question I have is, given the sales tax projections, how long do you anticipate the 0.5% sales tax to take to pay off the bond?
that's kind of a tricky question, but if it stayed the same as it is today, as it was in 2021, it would take around 20 years.
And so if I don't know what the interest rate would be on a bond like that, but I think I looked at about 4%. That may be high. I don't know. Of course, the way the Fed's raising money, that may not be high.
Yeah.
Maybe low.
Yeah.
But having said that, it seems if my numbers are anywhere close to right, we would be spending somewhere between $75 and $85 million over the life of the bond for this project. Does that sound reasonable?
With the interest and everything included.
Okay. Thank you.
Either, if you're going to get into this in the work session, you can defer it to then. But do you have any general thoughts on what the impact would be on our general budget? So in other words, today we're spending several $100,000, between $500,000 and $1 million, to support these activities. What do you see that looking like in the if all this is brought together?
Yeah, ultimately, you'd like to have some reduction in that from the 7 to to 700,000, or whatever that number is. We didn't mention, but, the city had never intended to make money on the rec center, so that needs to be, if you say that you're losing X amount, it's not losing, you're really subsidizing. When the rec center was built originally, it was, let's make it affordable for the community. So when a new structure, if it was the YMCA, what we'd look at for membership is, what's the market rates, and then there would be scholarships that would go to that. So if you make X amount, you may pay less than what the market rate is. So part of that depends on how that comes in, but it would be reduced some. Probably the biggest drain continues to be the outdoor Cody pool. I mean, the pools are always a drain, and that's, trying to figure out how much of that would be built in, but there would be some reduction over time. And Ty had mentioned on the, one of the concerns with the YMCA, they do have a sustaining drive every year. Whether they break even or not, it's just good to keep that so you're building that reserve. So Scottsbluff right now has about $150,000 that they raise annually from a sustaining drive for that. So all that will be detailed more in the work session, but that's some of the goals is to reduce that amount, and some of it can be by membership rates that right now I'm paying, like $20 a month, and I've got a really subsidized rate, which I could pay more. So with YMCA, I would expect to pay more with the new facility. And so once you factor all that in, you would hope that would go down some.
Go ahead, Brad. So would the YMCA take over management of Cody Pool also, or would that still be the city's?
That's right now just undetermined. I guess we had the YMCA folks in last week, and they were talking about that. Scottsbluff right now is providing, or they have a ballot initiative in November. The total for that is 20, I can't remember, I better not say what it was because I don't know for sure, but they've got a ballot initiative for 0.5% sales tax that will go for an aquatic center. And so what they'll do, the YMCA pool then will close. The city will own that pool area and have the YMCA manage it. So they could manage it, but they're just undetermined at this point. What they knew that they didn't want to do is own it as an aquatic center for a summer time, because it's, it does cost to provide that service. But they're also doing a 0.5% sales tax on the November ballot.
You guys looked at doing a sports complex or a rec center sports complex mix. Do you recall what the numbers were if you were to add a sports complex onto the rec center?
I don't remember those details. Right now. We went through those, and again, part of it was the management. The firm that looked at that, they would have liked to manage that, and then it's, they wouldn't take a financial loss on it, but they would manage it for a fee, and just trying to figure that out, whether it was the best option for the location. And really, it came down from moving the location away from current location by Adams School really was probably more important than anything. Just continue to service the community the way we can with that location.
So the deciding factor, or one of them, was just the land mass that you have to work with in that area.
Yeah. With that, and then just looking at what is happening, or other entities that would be looking at adding the space, like DNN and what they're looking at there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Jim.
Leland, I've always thought that the swimming pool was perhaps the most important part of this whole discussion. That's just my opinion. But I've always wondered why, and I know we need a better pool. We need a pool that meets the regulations for competitive swimming at the high school level. I understand that. But what I don't understand is why we haven't had more discussion about the school chipping in big time on this project, because they would be the ones probably getting the most use out of a good pool. And hopefully we could get some school district money into that project. I think a pool is important not only from a fitness perspective for young people, but it's also, I can associate that with public safety, because swimming lessons, I think, are a really important part of that pool project. Now, we don't have to have a regulation pool for competitive swimming in order to have swimming lessons. In fact, they're going on now, and I think it's really important. It's an important school. It's an important skill for our young people to have, just from public safety perspective. But I'd like to see our school chip in some big dollars toward that project, since seems to me that I see them over there practicing for their meets and so on, and I think they're getting a lot of good out of that pool, even now, even though they can't use it in a competitive way and have sanctioned meets there. They can nevertheless practice there and prepare themselves for a sanctioned meet elsewhere. And so I'd just like to see the schools getting more involved with funding. Thank you.
Yeah, those are good points. Again, for swimming, when you go there at 6 o'clock in the morning, just the amount of walkers you get, I mean, it is great exercise for all ages of our population. So I'd agree with that.
Blue-haired ladies in there.
There's a few, maybe there's some white-haired old guys too.
Oh, and bald guys.
Yeah. Which includes me. We have had that discussion. That was one thing the mayor had in addressing the needs of the community versus what the school needs. And we've really been having that communication, trying to figure out the right dollar amount. And they have agreed to support the pool, $36,000 per year that would go into a maintenance fund part of that, because you are right, as a community, we don't need, competition lanes, but it does help.
Personally, I don't know that we need an outdoor track on top of that thing. The streets are a good place to run. I used to run road races, and we ran on the roads. And we could go in the gym and run around inside the gym too, if the weather's really, really nasty, and that was nice to be able to do that. But fundamentally, I believe that fitness is a personal responsibility that each one of us has to take care of ourselves. And it's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily, in my view, include a government component to see that we stay fit. That's our responsibility. That's just my fundamental belief. But thank you.
Leland, on the $10 million maintenance, and I forget what the other part of that title was, how is that going to be? I presume that's going to be drawn down. It's going to be used for management, is what I understood. And upkeep and maintenance. So how's that going to be replenished?
We'd have, for the Scottsbluff YMCA, for example, that's another benefit to having that. Right now, they've got an endowment of about $5 million that has been built up over the years from estate gifts or donations. And, recently the Community Foundation came out and said, if you just give 5% of your estate back to nonprofits in your community, that's going to make a big difference in your heirs, your kids and grandkids won't miss it. So, what's 5%? So when you do that, every once in a while, somebody's going to be more apt to donate to the YMCA versus the city. And so that's why we've set up a foundation for that would hold those funds. And, ultimately, Scottsbluff has built $5 million in that endowment, so that could come from there. The goal would be through the fundraising, have a portion of that go to that maintenance fund up front. We have talked to some larger donors, and depending on who you talk to, they want the money to be spent on the facility, but that's where we'd have to figure out how to build that fund up, the $5 to $10 million. It'd really be what I'd consider like a quasi-endowment. So it would be in there and could be withdrawn at the request of the city, and then have a vote of that foundation board to say, yeah, that's a legitimate call, and we'll distribute $700,000 to replace this, or whatever the amount is.
Okay.
But it would be set up kind of as a quasi-endowment within that foundation. And those are things we're still developing, but
Sure, okay.
just my thoughts at this point, and we'll
Thank you.
have more at the work session.
So being an endowment, whatever money is in there would earn interest.
Right.
So hopefully that we would start with enough money that it would be a long time before we'd ever touch the original amount.
Right.
Other questions?
All right, we'll be back. Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 13, approve claims.
Move to pay the claims.
Second.
Motion Garrick, second Reeker to pay the claims. Discussion? Seeing none, calling the question on paying the claims. Claims are paid. Public agenda request. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. This is the time in the meeting where if anyone has a public agenda request item, you're welcome to come up and tell us what you'd like us to consider in the future. We have one gentleman approaching. Please tell us who you are, where you live, and what your request is.
Good morning, Tracy Martinez, North Platte. Can I ask a question? Just one question of the ones that they were talking about?
It's public agenda request item only, I'm sorry, but
Oh,
you're
okay.
welcome to ask anyone in the
Okay,
audience.
I was just wondering where the other side is, what I'm gonna ask. Another question, it is, National Police Officers Day week. And, Detective Corman, I wanna thank you, and I wanna commend you for your service as a police officer.
Thank you.
Little secret, the reason I run every time for political office is because Sheriff Carmen told me, well, because we was Democrats back then, that when you're supposed to run and get name recognition and always go up there, go to the council meetings and keep going and keep going. So if you have anybody to hate for me running for political office, it is Jim Carmen.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Is there an agenda item request in here somewhere? If so,
Well,
please get to it.
the other question is, how do I get onto the agenda for the council?
Meet with the city administrator and
Okay,
we'll determine what the subject is and whether it warrants consideration by the council.
okay, because I don't know how you play your rules. Then, the lady in the zoning department, Judy, what's her name? Judy Clark, yes. She told me to talk to the council, my council members, about the blighted study to designate areas micro-tip eligibility. How do I get that onto the agenda?
Specifically what, I'll tell you what.
I-
Make an appointment with the city administrator. We will discuss with you what you're trying to accomplish and we'll figure out the best way to do it, okay?
Very good, that's good.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Reeker?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Motion Reeker, second Carmen to adjourn, calling the question on adjournment. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jim.
Quite nice.
You should get a plaque for that.
I'm glad you talked somebody into running. It's nice to see people run. We didn't want Ed to have a too easy run. Good for you. I love this. I love
Always a pleasure.
I know my